Hi, have you ever wondered how some cool scrolling or paging are done in some prototypes? This video is all about containers, scrolling and paging. Okay, in other design to it may be called groups, but in Protopie it's called containers. Just like groups, containers are used to group numbers of layers and control them simultaneously. We simply create a container by inserting a container right from over here and selecting container. Then what we can easily do is to create a layer of maybe a shape, a rectangle, and we simply insert the rectangle inside the container, and we've created a container and we can control it. We can also do that. I'm just going to get rid of all of this. We can also do that by, let's say we select a rectangle, and we can do that by right clicking, group layers with container, and now we have a container also. I'm just going to get rid of all of this, Ctrl A and delete. Furthermore, containers can be used on scrolling and paging and are made by putting layers into scrolling or paging container. Let us take a look at the scrolling. I'm going to select scroll and I'm going to scale this a little bit right down here. I'm going to create several rectangular boxes and I'm going to scale them and give them a different color so we know the particular rectangular box we are on. I'm going to give this a separate color. Let's say I choose this color over here. And I'm going to hold alternate and drag, and I'm going to give this one another color, and I'm going to do the same for another one, and we have 3 now, and I'm going to give this one another color. So I'm going to place this 3 inside the container that I created, the scroll container, and let's see the preview right from over here. So I'm going to hit on preview and we can see how the scroll container works. I'm going to close this right now. Same rule applies for the paging container. I'm just going to simply come over here and maybe ungroup it. Then I'm just going to select this in a paging manner. I'll drag this, let's say I drag it over here, and I'm going to drag this one also over here. And I'm going to create a paging container and I'm going to scale it to, let's say, the screen size, and I'm going to place each of them inside the paging container. Let's see the preview right over here and we can see the paging container, very easy to create. I'm going to close this right now. We can also adjust the properties on the scroll or paging container. Let's say I want some changes on this paging container right here. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to come over to the property edit panel and we can see the option to make non-scroll. We can even change it back to scrolling or we can change it to paging. And we can also select the overscroll to bounce or none. I'm going to show you what that does. So coming over to our preview, we can see what bounce does to a paging container, and I'm going to close this right now. I can select make layers touchable right down here. This basically means that even though it is grouped, I can still touch the layers in the containers. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to get rid of all of this, Ctrl A and delete. I'm going to create 2 rectangles right here and I'm going to create another one, and I'm just going to put the 2 of them in a container. Group layers with container. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come over here, select the container, come down here and make layers touchable. So let's see the effect. I'm just going to add an interaction and let's see how that works. So coming over to our rectangle, I'm going to select one, add a trigger, let's say a tap trigger, and I want maybe this one to scale when I tap that first one, and maybe scale to 120 by 120, and let's see the preview right over here. So when we tap on one, we can see that the other scales. I'm just going to close this right now and I'm going to get rid of all of this, Ctrl A and delete. We can also set constraints on layer, and I'm going to show you what I mean by constraints on layer. Let's create a shape, let's say a rectangle, and I'm going to zoom in. Let's create a shape, let's say a rectangle, and let's make that a little bit small, and let's create another container and let's place it right there in the shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this rectangle, come over to my property edit panel, and you will see an option for constraints, fixed width or fixed height. I'm going to remove fixed width and fixed height, and let's see, putting the rectangle inside the container, let's see the effect that does. Scaling the container, we see that we can also scale the rectangle. But if I remove this fixed width, if I make it fixed width and fixed height, come over to container, and we see that scaling the container has no effect with the rectangle. We can also choose to make the alignment. Let me say I'm coming over here to make the alignment at the bottom, and right here I'm going to scale it. Let's see how that works. You can see how it moves. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all of this, Ctrl A and delete. I'm going to create another container, and I'm going to put some rectangles inside this container. Let me quickly create some other. I'm going to put one right maybe over here, hold down Alt key, place one over here and place one over here. I'm going to quickly put them inside the container, and inside the container I'm going to click out, and we can see our container, the size right down here. Coming over here, click sub layers, and we can see that the underlining lower layers are invisible. But if I select unclip sub layers, that is, I'm deactivating it, we can all see the lower layers now. And that's just a wrap for containers. Let's zoom off to the next video.